here at the UFC training facility in Las Vegas with Josh Bruni from Aries Tech. Josh, it's been a while since our last interview, and you guys have made a ton of progress since. Super excited to hear what you guys have been up to, so let's get into it. First off, let's talk about the partnerships. You guys have announced multi-year partnerships with major sports entities such as UFC, WWE. How do you plan to leverage these partnerships to drive awareness and growth, and what metrics are you using to measure the success?
Yeah, we've been busy. And sports are, in my opinion, the place where the elite human is showcased. And so everything from how they diet, how they sleep, and then how they perform is just on display. And so looking for all the ways that the human body can be pushed, optimized, recover, all of those things, there's really no better place than the UFC. And when you really learn more about the way that these guys train, the way that they prepare mentally, physically, all of it is just unlike any other sport. And as we got to know UFC, their story is a lot like ours too, where as an entity, as a sport itself, they were met with many, many obstacles. Many times I'm sure they were close to shutting their doors and continue to find ways to survive. And I think it's a lot like how our time has been, which is we've beat the odds when maybe we shouldn't have. And partnering with a league like UFC, I think is actually just a real privilege. And the way that we look at this partnership going forward is, first of all, they treat us like a partner, which is really great. Finding ways to integrate us, finding ways to amplify us, to deliver our message, and that's a great partnership. What we look at as far as ROI and why and how we're going to use UFC really is working with the athletes as well as the UFC, the league, and working with individual athletes on an individual level, integrating our product, our technology into their lives, doing a lot more tests and studies like we've done and demonstrated in the past, but with what does it look like now with a high performance athlete, someone that's really looking to optimize every day. And the great thing about UFC and some of the partnerships that we will continue to announce with different of the athletes and fighters is most of them came to us. I think all of them have come to us to this point. And that authenticity of that relationship really helps tell the story. And then when we think about who's going to hear that story, the audience of UFC is global. Our product, our reach is global as a company, and UFC gives that platform to actually reach that global audience with a trusted source like UFC. And so being able to work with fighters in all these different markets in a real authentic, personal way is some of the ways that we'll use this platform to reach consumers.
Do you feel like you've already started to see the fruits of the labor in terms of these partnerships?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot, because I think a lot of people understand, okay, well, you have the partnership. Now, how do you actually grow your business from that? How does it actually grow your business? And I think for us, I typically approach every relationship as like, what's the worst that can happen? And if the worst case scenario does happen, are we still happy? And with this situation with UFC, the first thing that I was looking for was that alignment with their brand. So our brand, partner with their brand, and then what can my team do with that? And what we've seen so far, and we do measure this pretty tightly, is how does that improve all of our business metrics over time? So even onto individual ad level. So if we're doing paid media and paid marketing, we're looking at, okay, what does a story look like with UFC partnership and without UFC partnership? And we can measure, okay, we've seen an increase in conversion rate or increase in traffic because it includes this. And so we actually have measurable ROI with that. So for me, when I have that type of control with these partnerships, I can essentially engineer and architect success. So even if the media that we get with the partnership doesn't do anything, my team has the ability to then take that media and actually create success almost regardless of what happens with their media. And that's how I approach this initially. And so to date, we've slowly started to, it takes a little bit. Once you sign the agreement, it doesn't mean all of a sudden you flip the switch and everything goes on. You've got to build content, you've got to integrate everything together, you've got to start collaborating and developing the story, and then you push the story out. We've started to push that story out sometime in July, and we've seen really strong, measurable, great results to this point, and meaningful results. When we talk about Q3 in the future, and we talk about the performance, you'll see that in that, and you will know probably. You can put a pin on the calendar and say this is exactly when Aries started to launch that content, because we've done so well so quickly with that. So we're super excited about. That's just the early stages. So as we learn and refine and iterate, it'll only improve.
So your growth strategy obviously emphasizes building the brand visibility on a much grander scale, and forming deep connections with these athletes in these leagues. What new initiatives are you planning to enhance brand visibility, and also how do you plan to differentiate Aries from these other health and wellness products that are in the market?
Yeah, good question. One benefit we have, and you've seen this in some of our ads, some of our content in the past, which has been our ability to demonstrate real-world, real-time effect on physiology. UFC gives us that platform to, again, work with kind of the most extreme conditions of the human can face, which is combat. And we've done some tests, and we're going to continue to work with the Performance Institute, which is just a world-class facility that optimizes these fighters. It takes care of these fighters and prepares these fighters. So our integration with the Performance Institute will be another way that we differentiate our technology, not only from other, let's say, EMF stories that are out there, which I don't really comment a lot on because I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about them, but we are so far ahead on science and studies and research, both on the effects of electromagnetic radiation, but also the positive effects of electromagnetic radiation, and how does that stimulate the body, and how our product actually has that stimulating therapeutic effect. So using UFC, their Performance Institute, and the athletes to tell that story, to demonstrate that story in the most extreme situations, is really going to separate us from, again, not only just EMF technology, but a lot of other wellness stuff.
Do you find that you've had to kind of educate the market in terms of the customers about EMF radiation, or do you struggle with that at all?
That's a good question. I think you're seeing this in culture right now, the conversation around, especially in the US. If we're talking about the US, you're seeing the conversation around EMF and just the kind of caution, we'll just call it caution, around EMF exposure from the cell phone particularly, and 5G particularly. You were seeing that just kind of already happen organically. You're seeing it happen in, I think, through trusted voices like Andrew Huberman or RFK Jr. or Tim Ferriss has been talking about it for a long time. You're seeing it happen in culture already. And so we don't really spend a lot of dollars to educate people that are not already willing to hear the message, if that makes sense. So our job and our marketing is designed around identifying the people that are either already familiar or kind of raising their hand to say, I'm familiar, but I want to learn more. That's a lot of what our marketing is designed to do. So the one really effective tool that we have is to partner with like top neuroscientists, top doctors, people that are looking at physiology and using biometric feedback to actually look at real-time data and seeing the negative effects the cell phone has on the body in real time. So when you see a lot of our ads, a lot of our marketing, a lot of our storytelling is around showing both the phone does have a negative impact on the body in real time, but then also how that's negated and neutralized with our product. So that it is a two-story tactic, in most cases. We can tell both stories without directly just trying to convince people that EMFs are harmful. We don't spend a lot of money doing that.
So when you talk about the phone and the EMF coming from the phone itself, are you looking at any OEM opportunities potentially where you'd be placing the Aries tech within a phone, or let's say headphones, anything like that?
OEM is a conversation that we consistently have with investors, with consumers, and with some tech companies, other people out there making hardware and manufacturing hardware. My belief has always been that it's going to be about timing. And when we find the right partner, when we decide to actually jump into that business, it's going to be about timing. And to me, the timing is around the consumer awareness and consumer willingness to first of all talk about EMFs as potentially being harmful. You're also going to have some sort of cultural shift around this conversation too. My belief is as we continue to apply pressure through the consumer, and that will then help change culture, change the conversation, and get the attention of the hardware manufacturers in a different way. We have these conversations now with lots of different OEM potential partnerships. I don't think they're right yet. I want the right partner at the right time, and I will be more comfortable when we've hit a certain level of saturation with our own direct consumer strategy before we start to think about the uphill battle that I know any OEM is going to have with this.
No, that makes sense. The timing obviously needs to be right. Let's talk about the financial performance of the company. I know a lot of my investors are wondering, you've done, since 2021, since you took over, the growth has been phenomenal, 80 to 100% sales growth every year. Do you think you're going to be able to sustain this level of growth moving forward, let's say for the next 5 years? And if so, how do you plan to do that?
I mean, this is the core of what I do and what my team does. Is we are built and designed around this type of execution of just a very methodical, controlled growth. We talk a lot about our growth engine, where we put $1 in and we get a certain number of dollars out. It's a very measured, controlled approach that is very intentional, meaning we control the inputs, we have an expectation of the output, and that output then informs the next input, and it's this iterative process. So we have a high level of confidence in our ability to sustain this. We've demonstrated it now for nearly 3 years since I've been with the brand, and so far we haven't seen any sort of, despite the challenges, despite the economy, despite the consumer sentiment, whatever's going on in the world, our ability to adapt to those conditions is proof of our ability to execute on this growth strategy. Another example of that would be if the world is stressed in this geography, we can move to another geography. We can start promoting in Australia. We have distribution in Australia, Europe, UK, Canada, US, Taiwan. So our ability to adjust to conditions, and like right now, for example, it's an election year in the US, so media costs are extremely high. So we have a number of things that we can do to offset that, but one of them is we can start to look at other markets and develop other markets without skipping a beat. So our ability to iterate in real time, like we're testing and learning every day, all day, always on, and that's how we have consistent growth year over year. And that's what we've done to build and weather these difficult times for growth companies.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the stock price. You guys have seen a lot of volatility. It's probably one of the best performing stocks in Canada and maybe even the US for the first half of the year. Since then, there's been a lot of volatility. What would you say to investors who have been holding this stock about the long-term potential of the company? I try to get my investors to not worry about the day-to-day fluctuations in stock price and focus on the long term. What do you have to say to these investors who, about the long-term potential of the company?
The stock price and the fluctuations of volatility, I think, look a lot like all markets have recently. So truthfully, I don't put a lot of thought to the stock and the volatility because I have a long-term vision for the company, and we continue to execute and we continue to deliver on that plan. And I believe that the stock will catch up and balance and stabilize based upon our execution and this vision, and right size. I think what you saw in the first half of the year was people getting familiar again with the story if they were already, and then those new ones getting introduced to it. And I think with the rapid success we had early, I think there were some longtime holders that saw the opportunity, and we have since brought in a lot of new shareholders. I mean, I'm taking calls daily with investors and investor groups and just all sorts of things. And most people we get excited about are the people that share that same long-term vision with us. You look at the math of the company, and you look at the the revenue of the company and the trajectory that we're on, and then you look at the value of the company in the market, and sometimes that doesn't make any sense because we are delivering results. Our revenue growth is extremely strong. We've demonstrated now for multiple years. And so sometimes when you look at that stock price and look at the value of the company, you're like, something doesn't make sense. And so I think over time that will start to make more sense. We will get priced right. That will work itself out. So we stay just focused on executing our plan. And I think we're doing a lot better at informing our investor community, both new to the story as well as the long-time holders, to just, we're here, we've been through the worst of it, and we continue to deliver. That gets people excited. We are a high growth company, and we are delivering on that. So to me, get on board, get on, and we will deliver. We're going to continue to deliver the same way that we have for 3 years.
Yeah, no, as an investor, I know better than anyone that stock prices don't always reflect the fundamentals of a company, but it's nice to hear that you guys are focused on what's in front of you, which is executing and delivering. With that being said, what is your end game for the company? Do you see this being bought out by a much larger company? What's your end game for Aries Tech?
I think end game in that discussion, I think, can be a bit of a distraction because there are a lot of possibilities. Like right now, people know us as a direct-to-consumer technology company that solves this problem. We talk about cell phone, we talk about wireless technologies being potentially harmful. When you look at what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening every day, and the conversations we're having, and the breadth of opportunity and the applications of this technology go way beyond consumer tech. And so when we're looking at, let's say, agriculture, or even like the therapeutic benefits, or some of the work we've been doing in clinics and treatment centers and things like that, those are really big, important stories that are just being cultivated and developed now. So the obvious thing is, okay, yes, an OEM opportunity makes sense. I don't think we're doing anything in particular today that says this is our direct end game. I think what we're doing is we're continuing to develop a wide range of opportunities that will potentially be OEM, could potentially be more agriculture or B2B type solutions, just lots. And so we're consistently staying focused on our current direct consumer path as a way to fund all these ideas, to fund more science, more research, better partnerships, new partnerships, expand the story, while also opening up more channels and more lanes for all sorts of potential outcomes. So I won't say I'm optimizing for any one in particular. I'm also saying we're definitely building towards all of them and receptive to all of them. But I think it's a kind of a distraction today for me to say we're going to go directly in this one area when we have a lot of opportunity and the core business is direct to consumer.
That makes sense. Given the overall market size for these kinds of products, as well as the growth trajectory that you're on, do you have kind of a sales target that you guys think, let's say in the next 5 years, you could achieve?
Yeah, I mean, this is the answer that typically gets me in trouble. But, look, I've been very consistent. Anyone that's had the conversation with me, and even our previous conversation, and is we are committed to the 60, 80, 100% year-over-year growth systematically. I think those that want to do their own math on that should do their own math, and that will get you a number of where you think we should be. I would say look historically to say, okay, history should inform the future as well, and that year-over-year growth historically matches what I just said. And as we continue to deliver results and we continue to have these conversations, check in, and hit those milestones along with us.
No, I think given all the progress that you've made and the consistency over the last several years, as well as these new partnerships, I think you're going to be able to achieve those goals. That's why I'm an investor. That's why I continue to follow the story. That's why I love the story. But no, I appreciate you taking the time today to sit down with me. And yeah, thank you, Josh.
Cool. Thanks.